What's going on, folks? It is Dr. Remy LeBeau, and I'm coming at you once again from the X-Layer to provide you my very deep and insightful reaction to the latest episode of Legion. This was Legion Season 2, Episode 3. I think last week I said it was Season 3, and I apologize for that because, I feel like I've gotten so much out of this show that I'm like 3 seasons in, but really we're just a few episodes into the... Actually, we're about halfway through the second season. It was just announced that the season is actually going to be 11 episodes as opposed to 10 episodes, which is fucking awesome. That means that they didn't want to cram it all into like 10 episodes. They wanted to give us a little bit more, and that's what we're going to get. We're going to get a little bit more, and I'm super excited about that because, wow. Wow. This episode was... It was haunting is what it was. It played like a really good like suspense thriller horror, like a suspense thriller sci-fi horror. Like all the stuff towards the end with the sister, like it was creepy as fuck, and it was scary, and it was shot so well, and the contrast of that against like the sort of calm interaction between Farouk, the Shadow King, and Oliver was... It was just such a perfect juxtaposition that led to like those final scenes just being so poignant, just like really getting you. Anyway, let's start back at the beginning. So Lenny has arrived, and nobody knows how, and nobody knows why, and fortunately they did not keep it from us. They very clearly told us exactly what happened in this episode via the flashbacks with the Shadow King and Oliver, and via the series of conversations that Lenny is having. But before I even go into that, like the recap of previous content that was related to the present, as opposed to normally like the announcer saying previously on Legion, he said apparently on Legion. Apparently on Legion. That is so fucking awesome. Like, I've never seen that happen in a show where they've taken that aspect of the show, just doing the recap, and sort of gave it a different twist, you know? That's what this show is. This show is all about playing with the form, what you can do with it, giving us, like, really interesting perspectives on things that are, or could normally just be really bland and commonplace, but elevating them to, like, a really interesting level to enhance the reality of this X world that these characters are living in. Because clearly, they are in the X-Men world. Al Farouk said that they are Homo superior. He finally revealed his intentions, that he wants to essentially kill all humans. Clearly a psychopath. But, you know, in the end, he feels justified. And it's a strange situation, and it's frightening, and it's terrifying in the sense that it could happen. Like, he could accomplish his goal. Like, he's that fucking powerful. I think, maybe he's more powerful than he is in the comics. Maybe. But it appears to be that way. Even though maybe some of the stuff that was happening with people being eviscerated like that, just by a snap of his fingers, and him, like, transmutating people and things of that sort, maybe that was Oliver's power, not the Shadow King's power. Maybe. Or maybe a combination of the two. Maybe it is an amplifying effect like we see in The Gifted. This whole concept of two mutants, they're touching, and if the connection is made properly, then they can amplify their powers, or even like create a new power from the sort of merging of the two different powers. So it's possible. I'm sure that's going to be at some point clarified, because I think this show is not going to be about like, let's do a bunch of weird shit and never explain it. It's going to be, I think, all about like explaining it, but then always giving us more weird shit so that we're constantly on the edge of our seats, but also satisfied as viewers for understanding what's going on. Yeah, so like, I think we're going to understand eventually. Anyway, going back to the stuff with Lenny, first of all, that upside down room. I mean, come on. That is such a fucking great setting. You got that upside down room, and then you've got I think it's like a video projection of an upside down, like a view of a city from maybe like a helicopter, but like projected up. So it looks like there's an upside down city above you and you are in an upside down room. That is fucking a dope concept in general. I love that it was used as sort of an interrogation technique to drive the person like mad, essentially, that's being held captive there, to ultimately potentially break and provide the truth. And in this case, like the truth about where the fuck she came from. Last time we saw her, as I mentioned last week, and as is very clear, like she was embedded into a wall. And that's what we saw in apparently on Legion in the beginning. And so where did that body come from, right? Like, is she still working with the Shadow King? What are her intentions for being there? So I like the whole thing with the interrogation with the guy with the burned face. I love how he brought up that card of him holding a card, and it was like infinitely the same thing. I love shit like that, man. It just, the show does not fail to care about every single little detail, every single one, and that is just a sign of mastery. It's a sign of absolute respect. Like, clearly they care about these characters. Clearly they care about the content that they are shepherding in their storytelling, and clearly they want to do everything they can to make the best thing possible out of this narrative that they are exploring. And I am so appreciative of that every single moment of the show. It's not often that as I'm watching a show, like I go through like just a brief sort of reflection of like, I can't believe I'm watching something so exquisite. My God, this is of the highest caliber. Like, I kept doing that. And it's because, of course, the show is what it is. It's such a gift. It's such a gift, and I love that it's a gift that will keep on giving, because I don't feel like they're gonna relent, especially from like the stylistic choices they're making, but ultimately in their storytelling, I feel like they know where they're going, and I feel there's more story to be told. So I'm really excited about that. Anyway, so there's the stuff with Lenny. There's the stuff with the memory dude. I forget. I need to learn that guy's name. The guy that can dance in people's memories. That's sort of the memory dancer is what I was calling him in my mind. He can go into people's memories, right, and kind of help people explore them. He had a delusion moment, and then that led into like one of those sort of poetic explorations where they talk about conspiracy versus coincidence, which I thought was really cool. And obviously, a lot of it is laying the foundation for a revelation at some point of what it is that people are maybe assuming about things that are happening, whereas in reality they are not happening, and there's a completely different thing going on. Maybe it was all about the fact that that David thought, well, like, the whole point of Lenny being there is a distraction for them. And the fact that they are trying to delve deep into her origin, her presence, is working in Farouk's favor. Maybe it's just buying him time so he could find his body, because apparently he knows where his body is, based on what Lenny said. So maybe that's what it is. I don't know. We're gonna find out. We're deep into the season, but we're not anywhere near like revelation type events now. Everything that was going on with Al Farouk and Oliver was fantastic. I love their interactions. It's so subtle, but the Shadow King the guy playing the Shadow King is fantastic, and so is Oliver. So is the guy playing Oliver, and like their interactions were fantastic. In fact, just going back to Aubrey Plaza, like she was fucking amazing. Like, her performance this episode was so good. I mean, another aspect of the show that's so great is the performances. These actors are of the highest caliber. They are all in on what they're doing, 100%. Clearly, they're feeding off of each other because everybody's giving 100%. And of course, the artistic, creative group that surrounds the show that is feeding the actors is also on that level. And so it's like, it's all working, and there's like this synergy, and you can tell, and it's fantastic. She gave an exquisite performance at the beginning when she was like falling apart with the doctor. It was so good. Anyway, the stuff with Al Farouk and Oliver was fantastic. And of course, it was implied that they were going to get the Shadow King's body. That was the whole thing of like, mentioning at the beginning, Lenny mentioning that he knows where his body is, and then showing them driving through the desert. Like, it wasn't clearly that they were actually showing us flashbacks of how her body wound up re-existing until it actually was revealed, right? Until it actually happened. Up until that point, up until like they actually started changing David's sister's body into Lenny, it could have been happening in the future, like in the present. I'm sorry, in the present, like concurrently with the stuff that was going on with the interrogation. And so that was a really great sort of misdirect, because obviously he's looking for his body, and then he finds a body in the desert, and we're not told that it's Lenny until later, until after they find the body, and after they do their like weird kind of taking a skin sample, which is clearly them getting the genetic material. And that machine, we now find out, is why they went to Department 3 or whatever it is. They wanted to get that machine, which apparently is a way to take somebody's DNA and then imprint that on somebody else. And then all Al-Farouk had to do was stick Lenny's mind inside of his sister's body. So does that mean that if they get Lenny's mind out, that David's sister's still in there, and that she can maybe reemerge, but still look like Lenny, and therefore Aubrey Plaza can play his sister and play a good character after the season's over? If that's something that may or may not happen, obviously that is unclear. Who knows? But it's an interesting sort of concept. This sort of idea that you can reprogram a person's DNA to look like somebody else, and that's clearly what they did. Okay, anyway, everything leading up to when that was happening was fantastic. Like, it was such a slow burn, and it was so calm, and you knew something was going to happen, but nowhere near did you think it was going to be this mind-blowingly just unconventional, right? Like, just what? I thought that maybe they had found, I don't know, for some reason I thought the monastery was gone, and they found Al-Farouk's body, and they took his DNA, and they were going to maybe recreate him. But like, at no point did I think that they were actually going to do what they did. And when David was talking to Lenny, and he got that flash of like him and his sister playing, which is what I got initially, right, when I saw it, it dawned on me, as it dawned on David, that maybe this is his sister, because they hadn't talked about his sister the entire season, and she played a pretty big role last season. And so it was a question of like, well, is she even going to be in the season? Does she have a relevance? Clearly she did, and she maybe had one of the best moments of the season. The fact that Al-Farouk wanted to take her specifically is pretty fucked up. But, I mean, it just reflects like his psychopathic and overall nature. Like, he's completely apathetic, and he is intentionally a bad person. Like, he wants to do as the worst things possible to his enemies. And to have his sister be turned into somebody else, potentially killing her, I mean, that's a big blow to David. And clearly Al-Farouk is hurt by David, having spent so much time with him and now no longer being with him. Clearly that affected him. But nonetheless, like it's a bit far, if you ask me. It's a bit far, given like what it appeared that there was a level of respect between David and Al-Farouk, but maybe that's part of the delusion, you know, and we're just kind of buying into it as an audience as well. That really, like, we're just talking about the worst kind of being in the world, like, that can exist, you know, super powerful and just pure evil, essentially, just pure fucking evil. It's crazy. I love it because it's so authentically terrifying that it's just like, yes, like, that's the kind of villain I want in my fucking X-Men world, you know? And I'm getting it, and I'm so excited by it. So I'm really loving the whole portrayal of the Shadow King. And what happened this episode was fantastic. So they go to that house, you see all these, first of all, it's like this weird kind of like donut thing, that's like a submarine, and then it goes to this house, and then there's a bunch of people that you don't really realize that it's a house being guarded until we go inside and we see the sister. But it's like everything is so beautifully shot. It just looks so fantastic, even inside the house. Like, and there's like a windmill outside, so you kept seeing that the shadow of the windmill coming down, and you kept hearing that noise, and it was such a wonderful backdrop to what was happening inside. And the moment when her boyfriend or husband or whatever that was says, like, you ever get that feeling of dread, and he like defines what dread is, and then the Shadow King arrives, and the sister's wanting to get away, but the Shadow King is so powerful. And then I forget the song that they started playing, but it was beautiful, man. It was such a beautiful, perfect song for that moment, because it was complete counterpoint. It was like, what was happening was completely opposite of what the song evokes in a person. Like it evokes joy, it evokes calm, and what was happening in the scene was of the most horrific nature. This woman is in complete control of this man who can move her with his mind and get inside of her head, and who knows what else. Oh, well, actually, we found out what else. Like, she's like, what are you going to do or something? And he's like, I'm going to find this sculpture in the rock or something. I was like, holy fucking shit. I kind of got what was happening at that point, because I think by that point, Lenny had already revealed that it was her body in the desert, that her body had been buried in the desert. Oh no, she asked David where her body was buried, and he told her that it was in the desert. Obviously, Farouk knew that. And so I thought at that point we already knew that they had the DNA. And then when he used it, I still didn't believe it. You know, I didn't believe that, like, they were going to go to that, like, really sci-fi level of, like, well, there's this device that can change the complete DNA of who you are physically from one person to another one that we code into the body. That's fucking nuts. And then for her to have to go through that completely conscious, and the way it was shot, and like those quick like close-ups of Al Farouk in the background with behind the blinds, where like you saw like kind of lights just like passing through the back, and so you see his face kind of silhouetted behind those blinds intermittently. So haunting, like such a great way to portray his evil intentions, who he is, and then watching that translate into actual like horrible actions, making this poor woman become somebody else while she's awake, and then ultimately Lenny emerging. And I love how when Lenny emerged, she was naked, and she like emerges in the desert, but like it wasn't sexualized, you know? It's like when you show a woman naked in a show, in any kind of film, like there's always been this thing, at least up until like the feminist critiques of like that highlighted this, which is like the camera was always looking at women, and it's called the gaze, and this was nowhere near that. This is a very clear like example of like where we've come from, where we were in terms of the way we represent gender and sex and people and etc. And for them to, you know, she needed to be naked. That made sense. But it wasn't like sexualized. It wasn't like, let's look at her ass. It was like she was all fucking weirdly all fucked up trying to fucking wobble her way out of this fucking dirty hole in the desert. She's all by herself. It's hot outside. It's like not sexy at all. And that was great, you know. I'm happy about that, because it's like, good, she should be naked, but we shouldn't be fucking sexualizing her. We should just be like empathizing for her, even though again in the end, like, it was revealed that she's still working for the Shadow King, and she's probably some sort of Trojan horse. I mean, clearly. But I'm sure the delusional part of this whole experience, this whole season, is stopping anyone from just seeing what's clearly in front of them, you know. And that is it's compelling and it's interesting, and I think that I think we're in for like some real exciting 6 more episodes of this season. I think things are going to go pretty crazy. Now, it was mentioned in Sid's dream, or Sid in the future was telling David that there's a bigger threat. And she, Lenny, mentioned to David that, oh no, she mentioned it to the doctor, that the end of the world is near. So, is she talking about this like catastrophic event that's going to occur that's going to be due to some other force? Maybe some other powerful mutant? And maybe in the end what Al-Farouk is doing is meant to somehow combat that. But I mean, he did say, like, he implied that he like wants to kill humans. And he feels like the humans are prey. Like for a lion, like a gazelle is, or like a deer is prey, right? So for him, the way he described it is like humans are prey. And it seems as though he wanted to just get rid of them completely. Exterminate them. I don't know. But there might be something else at play that we're not seeing. And I am all in on this fucking show. I am all in on this season. I cannot wait for more. Fucking Fox, give me 12 episodes. Give me 13 episodes. Did you guys catch that fucking awesome license plate for the title of the show, Legion? Oh, man. I love that they're being creative about every aspect of the show. They're just not leaving anything untouched without giving them that special Legion touch. And oh man, this is going to, I think this is going to at some point emerge as some of the best television that we've ever seen. I have a feeling about it. Anyway, that's the end of my review, gush session, whatever you want to call it, for Legion episode 5. Again, we have 6 more to go, so we have 6 more of these interactions to go. Somebody asked me about Infinity War. I might do an Infinity War review. I might want to see it one more time, even though I love the fuck out of it, and I could probably gush about it for probably 2 hours right now. But I might want to see it again, but maybe not. Maybe tomorrow or at some point I'll take a moment and just kind of throw down my thoughts on Infinity War, because that shit was the bomb, ladies and gentlemen. It was everything I could have ever wanted from Marvel. The Marvel Cinematic Universe, Kevin Feige, everything that's been building up. Like, it's exactly what the movie should have been. It was fucking mind-blowing, but this is not what this review is about, but I did want to quickly get a few of those thoughts out there. Anyway, I hope y'all are doing well. Hope you have a good week, and I will see you next week. As always, don't forget, first, before I go on my little closing phrase that may or may not mean something. If you haven't already subscribed, there's a subscribe button down there, right down there. Click on that. Keep up with my videos. If you like this video, click like. If you don't like this video, click you don't like. It's all right, folks. Not everybody's going to like me. That's life. That's life. And as always, I want to remind you that if you haven't already, you better put an X in that box, because ain't nobody checking me. Take care, folks. Bye-bye.